I'm here today with Josh Silverbauer from the GreatBigDigital, and we're very interested to learn what the team is doing over there. They have a very creative approach. If you guys check out their website at greatbigdigital.com, you will sort of, can witness this yourself. A witty and interesting agency we are pleased to have on the show today. And Josh was so kind to spend a bit of time to go through, our podcast presents interviews. So, Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. So tell us about the GreatBigDigital. What is it all about?
Sure. So we are technically a full service agency, and that always is an interesting thing to say because, what is a full service agency these days? But we have three main specialties that kind of really give a good sense of the left and right side of the brain. Part of our specialty is analytics and data building for companies. A specialty of ours is building and designing websites, and a specialty of ours is building and designing content, right? And then we kind of combine all three of these together for conversion rate optimization. So basically creating experiments on websites using data and different designs to qualify different funnels and build better conversion pathways.
Very interesting. I'm already sensing this is going to be a very interesting interview because you're sort of already like deep into conversion rate optimization. A lot of agencies would stop at this point, right? And kind of leave that up to the client. And you guys seem to be really involved with that. So that seems very interesting.
We're like top, middle, and even end of funnel sometimes. So it's we're kind of all over the place.
Very good. So maybe tell me about what types of clients you're working with, what vertical, what size, to give us a sense.
Yeah, so it really kind of depends on the service. We tend to work with smaller companies and medium companies for, building actual websites. They are, the $1 to $2 million a year type clients. But when you get into analytics building and building different, customizing different analytics solutions and conversion rate optimizations, we get our services range up to the enterprise level. And then, we never say no to a startup either. We're kind of all over the place in terms of who we want to work with. Our mantra, as you could probably tell by the personality of our website, is if you are a good, cool person and have a good, cool business, we want to work with you in some capacity.
Very good. Awesome. Okay, that gives us a very good understanding. How do these companies and interesting, founders and business owners, how do they find the GreatBigDigital? What would be a typical journey that they would go through in order to get started?
Yeah, so we're kind of all, a lot of our clients come from referrals, happy customers who then pass us, their happy friends, or not so happy friends who we turn into happy friends. So that, we get a lot of our business through referral. And we've been doing this work for about 5 years, so we have a good community. But also we work with, we like our own social presence, and we've been doing blogging for a while, and the content that we've written, we try to make it very educational, which drives a lot of, positions us a little bit as thought leaders in certain areas. Which help drive, people to us. And we're building on top of that idea. And we want to be, giving out more free content to provide people with value, so that they understand what they can do. And when they get stuck, we're there to help them.
Very good. And what role would the website play in that overall journey?
The website is key. I mean, we are, not I guess the cobbler's children, the cobbler's children wear no shoes. We want to make sure that we are walking the walk here with like a very powerful website. And we put a lot of time and energy into our internal website. It's not always easy. I think it's for an agency to concentrate on themselves, it's kind of counterintuitive. But we try to really at least, with 1/4 of our time per week, spend it on internal to build content, to build our website up, to do our social, to write and be out there networking so that we are representing ourselves and our brand.
Very good. So I have to give you some props for the cobbler shoes example because it actually, you might believe it or not, it actually comes up quite a lot in the interviews. So I
Yeah.
think I like that you push against immediately.
Yeah. 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 Totally.
Awesome. Awesome. So can you tell me, how are you helping, since we're talking now about your clients, right, and the websites a little bit, can you tell me how you're helping them to qualifying the leads and
Yep.
evaluate sort of the quality of leads that they're getting?
Yeah, so we are experts in data analysis and implementation. The first place we start with uh, any type of campaign, including a lot of times websites, before we even would build a website, we really want to understand the value of those leads and what's happening right now. Oftentimes, you will see or we will see a client come in and say, "Hey, I need this thing." Right. This is, I've been told I need, PPC, or I was told I need to be on social. And we say, well, hold on a second. Do you know what's happening with your leads right now? How are you, where are you determining this from? Yes, it's important to be in these areas, but you really need to understand the value of your current situation to understand how to grow it. Right. And if doing certain tactics are actually profitable. So the first place we like to start is with analytics and setting up a way to, build in ROI or build in what those leads are tied to, right? So if leads are coming through, are they becoming sales? And if are you able to see where those sales originated from, right? Are they, and with digital, you can do all these things. Offline tracking into online tracking is possible, right? So it's really determining what that business is, what the goals are of that business, what are the key performance indicators, and building a system that allow us to grow the company in a way that we're not guessing.
Gotcha. What is the typical challenges that you would see sort of, across clients in regards to lead qualification? What is like typical quality issues in leads that you're seeing?
Well, I think that's a tricky question because there are so many parts of a funnel, right? And so many parts of a funnel that could be broken, right? And it's determining what the part of the funnel that is broken, or the multiple parts that will allow you to, refine where the issue is, right? Or refine, basically fix that issue. So, it could be, we're driving tons of leads and then the client is saying, well, these leads aren't quality leads. And then we find out that their salesperson isn't getting back to them for 20 days, And so figuring out what part of the funnel is broken and then optimizing that experience is part of a full service agency, right? When you say and this is why I said it was a tricky term. When people say full service agency, a lot of times they mean full service agency for the top of the funnel, right? And we will provide all these different services to get you leads in the door. And then it's up to you on what you want to do with them, right? But that's not really necessarily going to grow the business. To fix the answer to growing the business, you really need to understand the business, right? And understand how every part of it works. And that will, setting up those goals on every single part of that funnel is going to allow you have a much better success at growing it.
I think it's a very good answer, and I have a follow-up question to that. So understanding the funnel of your clients, what's your experience in that? Because, we've had different experiences, obviously, on our side here as well. Sometimes clients would describe their funnel, and it turns out a couple of weeks later, actually, the funnel looks a little bit different.
Yep.
So what's your experience there?
I mean, you're totally on point. I think a lot of times, saying words like funnel and saying words like, I think it gets lost in the client, right? And they think of it in a different way than they actually, once you are we as, an agency are also like detectives. We come in and we, ask people questions and try to figure out the roots of it. And then you find stuff behind the walls that you didn't expect, and you kind of have to problem solve as you go along and interpret things a certain way, and then make decisions based off of that interpretation, and then rinse and repeat and kind of create, it's all the whole thing is, at the core, conversion rate optimization. Cause you're taking all these different parts of this puzzle, of this digital marketing puzzle, or business puzzle, right? And connecting it and trying to figure out where the gaps are. So yeah, there is a lot of rinsing and repeating once you learn more information, and it's your job as, you know, the consultant or as the agency to figure out what that information is. And you learn to ask the right questions and to, you know, kind of how to you know, set yourself up for better success in the beginning, but it's never 100%. So you kind of have to just keep on rinsing and repeating.
Okay, so it's not like one set process, but much rather the experience that is kicking in?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely set up a 90% you can have in process, but 10% has to be, you know, ad lib. You have to be able to, you know, improvise and go with the roll with the punches and just kind of like, you know, you have this process in place. But as we've seen in the last 2 months of our lives in the world, right? Things are not always as you expect, and a process is only good until you have to improvise. So you need to be able to be agile and jump around, and like determine, okay, we said we were going to come in at this area, but you know what? This area is a real low-hanging fruit right now because we've learned about your business and we understand that we should concentrate here right now. So
Right.
making your approach even a little bit agile so you have the ability to kind of, you know, jump around.
Very good. Can you tell me a little bit about you working with the clients that you've been working with so far? What is something, you know, how are you thinking in general about winning more leads from the websites? Like what is, you know, typical things that you see your clients doing or not doing, I should say, that would actually help them to increase their leads from the website?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when people approach digital marketing, I still feel like or websites, right? I still feel like there is this real static view of the website, right? We are going to build a website and then we're going to expect that website to then generate leads for us, right? And the way the way that the web used to be is for a long time, up until, you know, very recently, you build a website and then in a few years after that website's built, you build a new website, and then you spend a whole bunch of money on that new website. You don't spend any more money on the website for another 3 years, and then you spend a whole lot of money on that next website, right? And like now, that's not necessarily the best approach, right? Now there's all these tools out there that allow you to experiment in real time and make those decisions in incremental, you know, steps, as opposed to one large assumption of how you think that the website should be. Let the data tell you, you know, run smaller experiments and let the data tell you what you should change in terms of the design, as opposed to spending a whole lot of money and pushing out a design that you don't know if it's going to work or not. So doing that, and then just little tiny other things, understanding what content is relevant to your users, what value is relevant to your users, you know, or what's valuable to your users. Where are people getting stuck? Using heat maps to understand the click intent and where people are, you know, bouncing because they are frustrated. You know, where are those little red marks on the website that says a lot of people are clicking here and not really doing anything? So, you know, kind of understanding the whole site from and not getting too attached. We love our website, but like if we start to see that 100 people are going to the homepage and falling off, that shows us like, great, it's beautiful, we like it, but you know, that's not the audience. We need to cater to our audience, you know.
Very interesting. One last follow-up on that before we're sort of slowly switching gears a little bit. My question would be, you mentioned conversion there. I'm wondering, conversion rate, are those terms that your clients actually use, or is that an education that you have to provide?
It's an education. I mean, it depends on the client. You know, you get a range of different clients. And again, you know, we work, I said, everything from startup to enterprise. So, you know, startup might have no idea, or they might actually know better than the middle-sized business. But startup, middle-sized business tend to not know the terms as much as people who are enterprise and have been, you know, sold a lot of these tools before by other people, you know, so they might know the lingo but not be doing it really well, you know. So it's kind of, you know, there always is education. There has to be the willingness to educate, and that will ultimately be a successful long-term client, because not only are you building success, you are building a relationship, and you are positioning yourself as somebody who is, you know, somebody who is, you know, necessary for the education of this business to grow. right? So it's like they are getting, and you have to also give them some tools that they can do on their own so that there's a sense of ownership there as well. Because if it's too far removed and you're just like, we're the experts, you guys just listen to us, they're going to feel like they don't own their business anymore. And and there's going to be a feeling of loss of control, and, there's a balance there. So really being an educator, being a guide, but not being, a dictator as an agency.
Interesting. Since we were talking about education here right now, let's switch gears a little bit, because I would be curious, what type of content you consume in order to sort of educate? What are the platforms, the people? Like, what is maybe one or two nuggets of resources and content that help you to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an education fiend myself. I feel like you can never stop learning. This field changes so quickly that like you are never done, right? A few of the people that I've learned a lot from range from like the more technical side to just high level concepts. So on the more technical side, I'm a huge fan of Google Tag Manager. It's like my favorite tool that I've ever used in my entire life. There is Simo Ahava, who is like the master of Google Tag Manager. There's Measure School, where I learned a lot of the stuff that I know on the data side from, and then there are, just Udemy resources, YouTube resources, just a lot to educate yourself, and on the SEO side, Moz and SEMrush, they put out great blogs. It's just like finding the blogs that really resonate with you, and then trying to, understanding that they put out this content because they're doing the same thing. They're educating. They are thought leaders, right? And so putting in that time and building your brand and business that way is, almost like, it's almost nonprofit-y, right? It's like you're giving, and then therefore they, people will give to you, and yeah.
Very good. You mentioned the tag manager there, and there was some fascination I could see in the words that you were using about the tag manager. Like, what is it that fascinates you so much about the tag manager, and sort of, what are the topics that you're interested in diving deeper for the tag manager?
So the reason I love Google Tag Manager so much, or just tag managers in general, is because it opened up my brain to understanding that everything in the digital space is trackable. Right? Like every mouse movement, every piece of data, it's terrifying and inducing at the same time, right? It's like, wow, people like businesses like Facebook and Google, they really do know everything because everything on the web is trackable, right? So because everything is trackable, right? It's information overload. So then it takes a strategist and a tactician to basically take nuggets of information, right, and make it, relevant for a company, right? So all this data is available, but what is important? So Tag Manager allows you to grab certain data points and send it into things like Google Analytics or HubSpot or one of the different, services that you're able to grow your business with, and say, this is important to my business. I want to understand this. I want to track this, and then using that data and utilizing the system to then, grow the actual business with. So it's the backbone of all the data.
Very good. Cool. Very interesting. So what I would do now, since we're approaching the end of the interview, I would again switch gears one more time and jump into the rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those?
Let's do it.
Okay. What's the one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Probably analytics implementation.
Mm-hmm. If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be one thing that you want to have fixed for your clients?
Ooh, if there was no boundaries, I would say, let's make a machine that downloads all the information of an education before I even come in, so that they know everything. That machine definitely doesn't exist.
Wait, so you have super high level conversations with them, so you don't have to educate?
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about your company?
I think probably the last, being the CEO, there's always, 150,000 things going on. I think probably the last thing that kept me up at night was, having to talk to a team member who wasn't being as productive as he should be, and just like making sure that the right things to say, they feel appreciated, and but also try to get what you want out of the situation, which is productivity, and not causing any issue, but just productivity is what the goal is. So team management.
Interesting, very interesting point. One last question. If this would be your first day running Great Big Digital, what would be one advice that you would give yourself?
So I just gave advice to somebody who's starting out today, which is really ironic. He's an SEO guy starting his own SEO company, and he asked me this exact question. And I basically said that, like, there are going to be so many times in your business that you feel like you're failing. But like, just keep going, because the energy just switches like this, and then all of a sudden that failure is now the reason that you are successful in this moment, and it's just that door closes, another one opens mentality, but it's that optimism and perseverance to know that, every, like, it's kind of like the stock market, even though it goes down, it always is a little bit up, so kind of like, believing that will allow you to kind of keep going on this journey as a business owner.
Very, very nice. Josh, I really appreciate that you took the time to, guide us a little bit through your world. If you want to see a very creative website, guys, go to greatbigdigitalagency.com. Usually we would get the advice to not use stock images, but if you scroll to the very bottom, they made a very interesting joke of that. So I think that's very, very cool. So Josh, I really appreciate you taking the time and being part of Pathwing Presents.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot.